So the next step is to create the roof rafters, and that's going to be using this solid and using the component called contours. So if we go to contour and we see here contour component, we see that it's asking us for 4 different inputs: the shape, a point, the direction, and the distance. So we're gonna, for the shape that we're gonna want to do the contours on, it's gonna be this shape. The point is gonna be where it's gonna spring from. So if we want the roof rafters to spring from the center and out, so for it to be kind of equal on all sides, you would have to have the center, the point in the middle here, and then the other point in the middle. So that's what the point is for. The direction is going to be which direction it's going to create the contours. So we want it in this direction, and the X and in the Y direction. And it's going to ask us for a distance, which is going to be the spacing in between the structure. So let me show you how we go about this. We can actually take this box and go to a component called area, which will give us the centroid. What the centroid is the point in the exact center of the whole shape, and that centroid could be the point where we can spring from, because we want things on both sides to start from the center. And so we can move on to a distance. So we want the spacing to be a minimum of 12, and then I can do ... for the next, for the maximum of the slider, and I can do 48. And so I can put that for the distance here, but it's still asking us for a direction. Right now it's doing it vertically, but we actually want to go in this direction and this direction. To do that, we have to pick, the easiest way for me to do it is to pick 2 curves that are in both the directions that I want, and then plug that into the direction so I can create the contours in the direction that I want. And to do that, I'm going to create a box around that entire solid, and I'm going to deconstruct it. So deconstruct brep, which is basically exploding it, and then I'm going to pick one of the edges that I have here. So I'm going to use a list item, and then I'm going to plug in the edges to pick one of those lines. And so I'm going to hide all of this stuff here, and even this one, and we see that I have picked, actually this contour one, and I have picked this line, which is what I want, but I also want one in this direction. So what I'm going to do is, the index of 0 here is the one that I picked, so I'm going to make a copy, and I want the index not of 0 but of 1, so the next one. So it would be 1, I'll double click 1, enter, and then I'll plug that right into the index, and we see that we have one going in this direction and one going in 90 degrees in the opposite direction. And so that's what we want to use for the direction here, is we want to use this line to create contours in that direction. And we can preview here, and we see that we have created those contours, and they're spaced out at 12 inches in between. So we can increase that to make it a little bit more spacious design, depending on what parameters we want in the end. But since we have it in just one direction now, we actually want to go in the other direction too. So I'm going to slide down, hit Alt, and then it'll make a copy, and then I'll plug this curve right into the other direction. So it'll create contours in the opposite direction also. And now we can select those two, do a space bar, and then hide preview. And now we have the roof structure that goes above the trellis. And so it's pretty straightforward, but there's a few steps, to be able to get all the components and all the inputs into the contour. But it's pretty straightforward once you kind of get the concept.